Welcome to the Good Pod, where we're talking everything good wife, good fight, and this time we're talking about the premiere of the Good Wife, Good Fight spinoff, Elsbeth. We're talking about season 1, episodes 1 through 3. I am one of your hosts, Jason Reed. With me is not a towner. Here on the bus, just cruising these podcast streets, and we might have to make a quick stop to go check out a crime scene, but I'm here with my good bestie, Marissa Garza. Marissa, how are you?
Jason, thanks so much for the lift to the podcast. I'm so glad you were going this way.
Yeah, I tried to explain to you this is not an Uber, but you didn't care. You just said I gotta get off here. Yeah, I was in the middle of my rap, and you were like, "Yeah, I just gotta get off here."
I mean,
thanks, but no thanks.
Sometimes
was it that bad? You had to just get off.
Well, I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah. I do have to say I am, or can be at least, like an Elsbeth like tourist. Like just wanting to really immerse myself in the tourist experience and like take the tour bus. Or there was that one part later, the first episode, where she's like, it's right there, to the Empire State Building. Like, that's me. I'm like, oh, that thing that I've only seen like in a book or on TV or something. If it's in front of me, I'm very Elsbethian about it.
You're the ultimate tourist. You have to see all the tourist traps.
All the things.
See all of the as the residents wherever you're from, New Yorkers will stop and freaking tourist has to stop at every single thing, take pictures, gotta get out of the way.
I do love like also getting into the local culture, but it was fun to watch Elsbeth like fan it out.
I think it's definitely going to be one of the fun spots of this show is to see her in this new environment, discovering new things.
Yeah,
but yeah, Marissa, this is the first episode of this new venture we've got.
Why are we here, Jason? What are we doing? Why did you bring me here on the bus?
Why did I kidnap you? Bring you to Podcast New York. So listen, me and Marissa, if you don't know who we are, this is your first time hearing one of our podcasts, Marissa and I have done multiple other shows together with a different podcast network called Post Show Recaps. Yeah. We did a lot of different shows, and a lot of times when we pre and post show discussions, we find out things that we both like. Yep. And one day I think it was when we were covering Hijack, the show, the Idris Elba show, where there is an actress, Archie Punjabi, who was on The Good Wife as Kalinda, where I think one of us mentioned pre-show, like, yeah, I'm glad that this person here, because I used to watch The Good Wife. And like, oh my God, you watch The Good Wife? I watch The Good Wife. I love The Good Wife. How about The Good Fight? Oh my God, I love The Good Fight too. So then that was something that we bonded over, talked about a bunch, and then we see a new spinoff.
I know.
It was Carrie Preston, aka Elsbeth.
It was like we were like so excited that there was going to be a spinoff. So, and then watching it like get greenlit and everything. But then it was like, when is it starting? Is it starting now? Is it starting? What's happening? Yeah. When is it going? So now we can finally podcast together about what we're calling the good verse, the good universe.
The Goodiverse, yeah.
The Goodiverse.
Maybe like the KCU, the King's Cinematic Universe.
There you go.
This is another Robert and Michelle King joint.
Yep.
As the good wife and good fight are. So we're talking about another KCU property. So yeah, I didn't know what we were going to get here with Elsbeth, because it's a different environment, it's a different show, it's a different setting even.
Yeah.
So I think it was very interesting to see like how this is going to compare with the other good shows, the Good Fight, Good One, the KCU joints. And I think as we're talking about kind of pre-show, this feels very different than Good Wife and Good Fight.
Yeah, Good Wife and Good Fight had like, and we might get a little bit of this, but it's not longer storylines. Like The Good Wife, there was a story arc that was connected to the main character for a whole season, more seasons, things like that. And you would still get your little court cases here and there, but they would all build from each other. And this is very much the procedural situation happening. And like, it's just a different vibe. It's not bad. It's just different.
Very different. It's like you said, a very procedural vibe. I'm also a fan of different procedures on CBS. I've been watching the show Tracker with another one of our faves, Justin Hartley, from another one of our shows that we covered. This is Us. So I've been watching some Tracker, and that's definitely a case of the week procedural. Now these procedurals will have some storylines, some characters that come in and out. They will have like a soft overarching storyline. But like you said, in Good Wife, you would have probably had like the case of the week might be a small part of the show, and then the bigger storylines will take over. This, with Elsbeth and other procedurals, the case of the week is going to take up most of the time on the show, and then we'll get like a few minutes dealing with a longer storyline plot. Here we at the end of the episode, when we find out the real reason that Elsbeth is here is to watch Captain Wagner, because he might be part of some corruption scheme. That's going to be our overarching plot of the season, but we only spend a couple of minutes each episode checking up on that storyline. But mostly it's going to be the case of the week. I think something that's a real big difference from here and the rest of the KCU shows is that the other KCU shows have a huge cast. This show is going to be 3 people as the main people. We have Wagner, we have Kaya, and we have Elsbeth.
And Captain Wagner was also Meghan Markle's mom or dad on Suits.
I mean, listen, Wendell Pierce is a fantastic actor. He has done so many great things. I've seen him in Jack Ryan. He's really great in Jack Ryan. I love him in that. And I really hope that they utilize him a lot more, because I didn't really get that Wendell Pierce magic from a lot of these first 3 episodes. We're kind of introduced to him. We're kind of greeting him. I just hope we get more of him. I loved when he was like in the first episode where he's talking to Elsie, like, all right, now step back from the window or I have to shoot you. Like, I was like, that's Wendell Pierce stuff right there. He just says it in this dry, sarcastic tone that he does so well. But yeah, we have those 3. We have Wagner, Kaya, and Elsbeth. Those are our 3 mains, right? And it seems like we're going to get, in these case of the weeks, a new big guest star every week who is going to be the killer, who is going to be the main focus of trying to take down. We're also probably every week going to get a different detective who's going to be very skeptical of Elsbeth and always not wanting to go through Elsbeth's techniques. It seems as a criticism, what I'll give, all those detectives seem very samey. They could just be anyone. They have the same type of mannerisms. They have the same objections to Elsbeth. So I hope they kind of chop that up a little bit, make that a little more varied throughout the season. Maybe we have a detective that has a different point of view, but all those detectives in the first 3 episodes just kind of like, oh, Elsbeth is, she's really messing up my case. I really had this thing solved, and this stupid lawyer has to come in here and mess everything up. I was like, okay, this seems very samey, but it seems like that's going to kind of be the formula here. We're going to have our 3 mains. We're going to have our detective of the week. We're going to have our killer of the week.
And I think it's really smart, because if you were a fan of the other shows like we are, the transition from Good Wife to Good Fight was pretty seamless. The structure was the same. There was like the big opening, like credits was like a thing to get you settled into the show. And all 3 of these episodes start off with a crime right away. Like, we're seeing what's happening. And I think it's smart to have that be the way that things start, so that we know as an audience of like, hey, this is the same, but it's also different. It's a lot different. It's going to be a different vibe, different tempo, different mix of things. But I also love the structure of leaving it open for these guest stars, because it is kind of fun to have different people pop in. We saw Jane Krakowski, we saw Jesse Tyler Ferguson in the 3 episodes we've seen so far, and so it kind of allows people to come in and add something different. I do agree with the detective side of things. It was a little samey. I would love to see Elsbeth like have to go up against a detective as opposed to having to go up against the criminal a lot. We see a lot of like the criminal trying to one up Elsbeth, or Elsbeth trying to one up the criminal in the situation. And it would be interesting to see her have a challenge from inside the force as opposed to, with a criminal. But it's only been 3 seasons, so we'll see. I mean, 3 episodes, so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, and to talk about kind of the setup each show has, it's like, I do think it's interesting that we, kind of like a Law and Order Criminal Intent, right? On that show, we would see the criminal do the crime. There's no question that this is the criminal. This is who we're up against. This is the villain of the week. Instead of who of these possible suspects did it? We already know from the jump who did it. It's just all about how Elsbeth is going to prove that person did this.
Yes.
So I think that is a very interesting approach to take, and it's a little different from the procedural counterparts that we have on most of these networks. So I think that's very interesting. And I think it's a good way to tackle it, because Elsbeth is our hero. Elsbeth is the one the show is named after. So she's going to be the one that we're going to follow, and she's going to be the one that's going to have to solve this case. But the focus isn't on who did it. It's about how Elsbeth is going to prove that it was done. So I think that is a smart tack to take here.
Yeah, they straight up tell you who did it
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of every episode, and it's a long intro before we get the title cards. Like it's a long time. It really sets the scene of like what this crime is. You see everything from start to finish, and then we get to, like you said, see how Elsbeth comes around, and she usually has like the instinct right away, and she has to collect the evidence to support her instinct, as opposed to on other shows where we'll see the evidence leading to a solution. And I think it really is an interesting conversation to have in this time of like truth and what's right, what's wrong. You know, sometimes intuition is something you can play into it, but she is supporting it with facts. It's not just like she's out there, you know, accusing people of murder. She's like, I think this is what's happened. I know that this is what it is, but I have to prove it. And she's going about it trying to find that information. She's definitely like pushing some cards in her favor with the conversations she has with these criminals. You know, she's definitely asking people, like we see in the first episode with the director when he leaves the crime scene. She straight up says to him, like, man, I think they're going to start investigating this as a murder. And he's like, wait, what? Like already, like she's already putting him on his toes and stuff like that. And that like causes a domino effect throughout the rest of the show. So she's very smart in that way. And it is kind of fun to see her get to the end and then also convince her fellow. She's not a police officer, but she's a police officer.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask you about. So, and I want to kind of get into Elsbeth's role on the previous shows.
Yeah.
And was there something that we saw in that makes us go, this is a perfect role for Elsbeth? Because I do think in the previous roles in the Good Wife and Good Fight, we do see her have these keen observations. I think as her kind of secret weapon is her just seemingly she disarms people with her seeming naivete and seeming charm, where they have they underestimate her. They don't think that she's going to be as smart or as intuitive as she is, because she comes across as so like scatterbrained and so harmless. They don't realize that they walked through the trap. So what do you think about her role here? Does it fit into her roles before in the other shows?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it does so really well, because in those other shows, she was always the person they went to begrudgingly. Like it was always like, oh, okay, I guess I'll call Elsbeth. But when they were in a pickle, when they couldn't see things, when they thought they were up against a wall, and she would come with her million of tote bags and bring everything everywhere, and she would look at it from a different angle. And putting her in this role, she is in New York under a consent decree, which is basically just like a court order to observe the police department of New York, who has apparently made a number of wrongful arrests. Like, I don't know where they would get that from.
Can we be shocked when we see how easily these police officers are willing to just take what's thrown in their laps and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that must be it. Like, something like I'll talk about this, like, you know, they seem to really just accept the biggest thing in their face and just go, oh yeah, that's it. It's like, I mean, I don't think there's anything shady going on. I just think they may be bad at their jobs.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting light to portray these people in.
She's just like a walking other perspective every single where she goes. And, you know, I love seeing that, because I'm always someone who feels like different in a room. Like can sometimes feel like the odd person out. And here we have somebody who is an odd person out in the center of the story and being seen as valuable. And I love that. I think it was in episode 3 where at a crime scene, they're like, oh yeah, I've been told you're smarter than you look. And she's like, smarter than I look. I get that a lot.
Yeah, she's like, I got that on a report card once.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that her personality is rightfully cast in this way. I just think it's very interesting she's kind of transformed right from a lawyer to an investigator.
Yeah.
I also thought this would if you had taken Elsbeth out and made this show just name the show Kalinda, would this be like kind of the same on the same terms as like as we see Kalinda investigating her or the cases that she's on?
Justice for Kalinda. She deserved it. She would it would have been a much different vibe. Like, I don't think the crimes that Kalinda would be investigating would be the same type of crimes that
Well,
Elsbeth is.
Kalinda and Elsbeth tackle things in different ways, right?
Yes.
Kalinda is very aggressive in your face. Elsbeth wants to disarm you with her, quirkiness and her
Yes.
charm in order to make you not seem that she is on her game. Kalinda will be like, "No, I am that. I am that girl. I am her. I am the one's going to catch you and going to make you, make you slip up." Elsbeth's like, "Oh no, I'm just an out of towner. I'm just coming. I don't know
She's
what
like
I'm doing."
the bless your
All the
heart
while,
person. She's
eating.
like,
Yeah,
bless your heart. Oh my goodness. I made you
yeah.
some cookies.
All the while she's reading your mannerisms, reading your body language, reading everything about you. You have no idea that she's doing that to you.
Yeah.
It's like that's the difference between the Kalinda and the Elsbeth. I would love to see them partner up and how they would be in a case together.
Well, I mean, we did get a name drop of Carrie. Like, I wonder if Carrie's going to show up. I don't know. Like, I don't really know if I see, because they put the show in New York, I don't know if I see any of the old cast coming over or something, unless they're like a guest.
Yeah, I was reading an interview with the Kings, and they kind of were throwing cold water on the notion that we'll really get any good wife or good fight cameos. So like Elsbeth is kind of a standalone series that technically is a spinoff of those shows, but it's really standalone. She's in New York, and the other people are in New York, but Alicia is in New York.
Yeah.
Because last we heard about Alicia, she had relocated to New York and is a lawyer in New York. So let me be clear. I don't think Juliana Margulies is going to set foot on this show.
No, I don't think so either.
I have a feeling that the relationship between Juliana Margulies and the Kings didn't end well.
Especially also given current podcast comments by her, like, I don't think she's like in a good, she has good social standing.
What was this?
She said some not so nice things on a podcast. Just Google it. Yeah.
About who?
People.
Oh, okay. Leave us in the dark. Yeah, but that's interesting. So yeah, I don't think Juliana Margulies, aka Alicia's ever set foot on this show. She might be name checked. I just think it would have been so awesome if Elsbeth walks to a crime scene one day and Alicia is being like falsely accused, and Elsbeth has to prove that she didn't do it. I think that would be phenomenal, but I just don't think that's ever going to happen. And like I said, the Kings kind of threw cold water on the theory that we're going to see anybody. But my thing is like, why would you name check Carrie and then not have him show up?
Right. I know. That's why I think he might show up. Like maybe like at the end of the season or something. Like if they go down this route. So she's there because Captain Wagner is apparently laundering money through his wife's charities and things like that. So if that goes anywhere, I could see Carrie coming in to pick it up from there or something like that.
Marissa, we've podcasted together many times, and me, I have my theories, I have my things I like to see. I can envision, right? Like the end of season 1 is like Captain Wagner gets arrested for his whatever's. But then like a season 2 begins where Carrie has decided to defend Wagner. She's going to go and plead his case at court, and on the other side for the Department of Justice or wherever Elsbeth is working for at this point, it's Carrie. Now Carrie is on the other side of Elsbeth, and they are fighting against each other to prove that Captain Wagner did or didn't do this. I can see that. I would love that.
Well, she would have to get
season 1 finale.
Her law license in New York, but then yes, I think that would be great.
Marissa. That's just this.
It can happen, and like
things that can be explained away in a minute. That could be like, oh yeah, I spent last night getting my law license for New York or something like that, or she reveals that she already had it for some reason. I don't know, but yes. Do we want to start like talking about the episodes in kind?
I think we should spend a little time talking about Kaya before we jump into everything, just because she's another important piece of this puzzle. I love that she's basically just like brought into this world because Elsbeth gets off the bus and runs, runs into her, compliments her scarf in true Elsbeth way, and she ends up being stuck, like basically babysitting Elsbeth everywhere she goes for the rest of the episodes.
Yeah, I mean, this wouldn't be like this is one of those type of shows that, and it's interesting because we've seen shows where you have the cop, and then you have the person from some outside profession that is usually they're termed as a consultant or like That's how these kind of team up buddy cop comedies work. Like a Castle, The Mentalist, it's all about the cop. And like in Castle's case, he was like a writer. The Mentalist, he was a guy, he was a mentalist that could perceive things. And this one is less of that, I think. It's more of an Elsbeth vehicle, but Kaya is kind of along for the ride. They are kind of partners in this case, but not officially. I guess I would say it's less of a buddy and more of an Elsbeth is the top bill, and Kaya is just kind of there.
Yeah. And it's been cool because you could see them kind of like work together in a couple of cases. Like Kaya will pick up the lead from Elsbeth and like find evidence that supports what Elsbeth is saying. And you'll see Elsbeth like try to become friends with Kaya, which we'll talk about like especially in episode 3 when she's like a big fan of reality TV and everything.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because she does have her eyes, especially in episode 2, she has her eyes and ears on Elsbeth, like in a skeptical way. And so I think that she overhears Elsbeth on the phone with the DOJ a little bit, is like, who are you on the phone with? And then she's really interested in Elsbeth talking about her son and what her son is doing and things like that. So I think that was like planting the seed that her role in this might get bigger as things go on. And especially if the Captain Wagner storyline grows, I can see there being, unfortunately, Kaya being like in the middle of all of that. So,
and you know, this Kaya is played by Cara Patterson, who I didn't really have prior, knowledge of really. And when I look up on her IMDb, she says she's mostly known for Straight Outta Compton. I did see that movie, but I honestly don't remember her. The Arrangement and Bloodline. So she's not someone that is very familiar to me, but I do enjoy her in this role. So, and yes, it's very, well, she was also in Evil, which is another King joint.
Yeah.
She's on one episode of that though. So not a big presence on there. But yeah, I do enjoy her in the role. I think she's much like anyone else, very skeptical of Elsbeth at first, but I think she turns pretty quickly into a Elsbeth kind of defender in a way. And Elsbeth like, I think she might be on to something. She's not like her other counterparts in the precinct of just like automatically just discrediting Elsbeth. She's willing to hear Elsbeth out because I think also that's because she spends a lot of time with Elsbeth and can see where Elsbeth is coming from. So I do like that kind of camaraderie they have by the end of episode 3. It's almost like they're getting to be friends at that point. But I do think it'll be interesting, like you said, if Kaya does catch on to the fact that of Elsbeth's real motives of why she's here and how that's going to, how that's going to make Kaya feel, whether she should betray Elsbeth because they've kind of become confidants or betray Wagner in a way. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a season 2 if like Kaya has turned to a detective by season 2, right? Because right now she's just like, as she tells Wagner in episode, I'm just a patrol officer. He's like, oh no, now you're a lawyer patrol officer. I wouldn't be surprised if by season 2 she becomes a full-fledged detective and like her and Elsbeth are working together officially on cases now.
Oh, they'd be a good team, like official team. I think regardless, she deserves a raise.
Because Kaya's no slouch.
Yeah,
through these 3 episodes, she's no slouch in her skills at policing and detecting things. She helps out every now and then. She gives Elsbeth is one of those characters like a house, right, where you say something or do something and Elsbeth will have this eureka moment.
Yep.
And sometimes that comes from Kaya saying something else. We're like, oh, that's it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I found my smoking gun of how to prove this person was the criminal. I think that's a very interesting light to cast Kaya in.
Yes. Well, I think now it would be a good time to go into the episodes, because there is no like overarching type of storyline. I was thinking we could just kind of talk about the crimes that were committed and how they were committed. And I'm not saying that we want to rate crimes, but I am interested to know at the end of this, like, what was your favorite crime? So we can talk about that at the end. The first episode was just like this actor or this director who definitely knew what he was doing. This is not the first time he has murdered someone because the man had gloves at the ready. He knew what to do. There was a timer. Like, he definitely had a plan. He had thought about this. He knew what he was going to do. He knew he was going to frame this woman, Olivia Cherry, a student in his class, which is a whole other thing, but frame her as having committed suicide.
he definitely had this plan for a while. He had the timer. He's like, I got 4 minutes from this moment to when the actors come back from backstage. I got 4 minutes to do this. He had a timer ready. He had all of his stuff planned out. When he comes in to her house, he's got his whole like killer's roll out where he has all his little tools. I was like, oh, you're a
watching
professional.
Dexter. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, you're a professional, bro. Like, you're not playing around. You got all your tools ready. So, and this is Stephen Moyer, who was on True Blood with Carrie Preston back in the day. So they're no strangers to each other. This was a very interesting pair to see here. I love the way they kind of played off each other.
Yeah,
I think if we're rating things, I think I'll give you a spoiler now. The chemistry between Villain and Elsbeth, which I think will be something that we'll need to follow every episode. I do think this is the best chemistry that we had of Killer to Elsbeth, because maybe it is because they played together before on TV, but I do think it was a fun little cat and mouse that they had between the two of them.
Yeah, there was that one moment at the bar where he was like, "Can I get you anything, Elsbeth?" And she was like, "No, I can't drink. I get kooky when I drink." Like, that was like,
imagine that.
That was really fun. Yeah, there was this cat and mouse game kind of going on between the two of them. Elsbeth knew at the beginning that his character Alex was guilty, pretty much. Like, he walked in the hallway and she like followed him down, and he's there being like consoled by these other students who had apparently also been involved with him. I didn't want to get think too much about that.
Yeah, they're probably his perspective ones after I mean, he's been through we go through the list. He's been through them all. Yeah, so I mean, these might be the perspective ones after Lana, who is his current it girl, and Olivia was his former it girl. Lana is now, so these ladies that are in the crime scene with him are probably his perspectives coming up soon.
Yeah, what do you think about his plan? I think it was very well thought out.
I think it was a good plan. I mean, I'm not gonna fault the plan. He planned it out right. I think. He wasn't planning on coming to Elsbeth.
Who would have thunk, Jason, that having two spaces after a period would get you?
Yes, this is what I want to talk about.
Situation.
This is what I want to talk about, because I didn't know that was a thing. So when they said old people do that, I was like, yes, because I'm a one space after the period guy. Always have been my whole life. I didn't know this was a thing. There was a two spaces after the period. I was like, all right, I can count myself as a young person. Awesome, cool, because I've always done the one space. Where are you at with the spaces after the period?
Well, I had to break myself of this habit. I am of the two space generation. Let me tell you a story of growing up in the 80s. When you're in school, you had to go to keyboarding class, which isn't fun music keyboarding. It was learn how to type class. And there was a game that you had to play that basically taught you how to type. And if you didn't do two spaces after your periods, you wouldn't get all the points. And so this happened in elementary school, middle school, all the way into high school. We were taking these classes two periods, and even or two spaces after the period. And even teachers would count it when they're proofreading it. They would circle the space in between and say that there needs to be two. Somewhere along the line, I think it's because either this actually happened or I just believe this happened, but I think computer programs put a different space after a period. The space after a period just got bigger, and so you didn't need to do two spaces. And I don't know if that actually happened or I convinced myself that was the tool that I used to break the two space habit. But there's definitely a lot of two space evidence in my past.
I legit didn't even know this was a thing. I was like, who puts two spaces after the period? I didn't even know. I was like I said, I was glad I could count myself as the young people that was a one space. But I do, I was like, some of this evidence was I mean, if not for the fact that we knew that he did it, I was like, this kind of circumstantial evidence, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
not to really, could have been anyone.
They really didn't have anything till they caught him at the end, really.
Yeah, exactly. They had to catch him in the act to really make their case. But yeah, I thought that was a very interesting observation that Elsbeth made. I was like, oh, okay, well, interesting.
Cool. And that's where we see Kaya really kind of step up and try to partner with him partner with her because they're talking to Lana, and there's the Silvis there, and Kaya sees it, and she's like, "Can I borrow this? Can I take it?" But as someone who doesn't spell very well, also, I was definitely like, I could have been committed of this crime. That's all I have to say. Like, there was really a lot.
I've switched from I's and E's in my life thousands of times, I'm sure. So they could have definitely called me as the killer here, because I do that stuff all the time. Do not make me spell definitely. I will get it wrong every time.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Yeah, and so then Alex, of course, is just trying to outrun. Like, they talk about the two spaces, and he's like, "Oh, okay, well, let me frame this guy Tyler by leaving this note that has two spaces after it, so that way."
I thought that was so interesting, because we didn't really follow up on that.
No, who was this guy? I never saw him.
We didn't interview him. We didn't meet him. They were just like, "Oh yeah, he's got an alibi, so it's definitely not him." I was like, okay, that's kind of a weird thread to throw out there and just kind of close it up immediately. I thought that was very odd.
Yeah, but he like reacted to every single thing, and it wasn't until they had framed, or they had picked up Todd, I think was his name.
So,
TA.
I think it's weird that he tries to frame Trevor James first. That gets shut down immediately. I don't even know why. They could have just totally taken that out, and I think we wouldn't have even missed it. But then he's like, all right, well, that didn't work. Time to frame Todd.
Yeah.
poor innocent little Todd was just having a tryst with Olivia. I mean, I wouldn't even call it a tryst. I think it's a full-blown relationship.
I think it was too.
Todd. Yeah. I mean, his deodorant was at her house. So I mean, that's kind of that's a big step. If you're leaving deodorant at someone's house, I think you're in there.
And she was whitening her teeth and had her diaphragm. Yeah, like she was ready.
We talk about this another like evidence of Elsbeth's keen mind, where she sees the whitening strips package in the trash. She sees the diaphragm case is empty. She's like, well, she'll plan on getting some tonight. So why would you unalive yourself if you're planning on getting something?
Right.
I mean,
right.
So like, oh yeah, that's another thing that only Elsbeth sees for some reason, because these cops are bad at their job. I just want to point that out again. These cops are real bad at their jobs, because they're just like, they'll take whatever they see at face value, like, yep, that's it.
Well,
that's it.
There's a computer with a website about how to unalive yourself. Oh, that's it. That must have been it. That was it. Yep. I don't want to ask any questions. Like,
which other times they're just like, we got it, case closed, guys, mission accomplished.
I think it's interesting because we live in the world now where we read so much online, and it's like you can take it as face value, but if you don't do, like, maybe Elsbeth will help people think about it, getting curious about things. This is my idealistic hope for this show, is that it will get people to think and ask questions.
I just hope, I really want there to be like, we come in on an episode and I was like, wow, you guys have been doing really good with your cases for the last couple of weeks, because you guys have done really well on these cases. Because if I'm believing everything that every week the cops are messing up one of these cases, like, yeah, I mean, you guys are real bad at this. You guys needed Elsbeth's help to come in and solve these cases right, because you can't do anything right.
She is carrying the department on her shoulders.
You guys, what about the other cases that Elsbeth isn't on? I should be really worried about those cases and if they're being done right.
Yeah, there was that one time where Wagner's like, unlike you, I have 46 other homicides to investigate.
Are you messing up all those too? Because you're messing up these ones pretty bad, because you refuse to look at the evidence that Elsbeth is bringing. They're all so skeptical of her at every turn until she can put the evidence in their face and be like, see, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, why does this woman who was a lawyer not too long ago have to walk all of these seasoned detectives and police captains through real... I want it to be a little more balanced. I want to see these cops do a good job at something, so I don't think that they're totally inept at their job.
Yeah. No, I would like them to get a win or get something before Elsbeth. Like we're saying, like, just kind of turn it around a little bit. Before we wrap up episode 1, what did you think of how she kind of laid the trap for the killer here?
I thought it was great. I mean, obviously, like, a lot of these episodes, it's very transparent, because it's like, oh, I can see what you're trying to do there. Like, as Kaya and Elsa were talking about, oh yeah, we're searching Todd's room for the SIM card cloning device. Can you hear me, Alex?
SIM card cloning device.
If only we could find that SIM card cloning device in Alex's belongings. I don't know, either in his room or somewhere here in the theater. If only. We can prove that.
And then also, I gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta go fast. See you later, Alex.
And he was like, oh, well, SIM card holder or SIM card copier. And then he sets his timer. Well, first he goes up to Todd and is like, hey, you're back. I guess I have to finish this job and make sure you really go to jail. So he sets this little timer, goes back down again, and then is definitely like caught by everyone there. And I loved how the whole clue here was that bad acting can like lead to who's telling the truth. And it was interesting at the end that Alex treated this like a performance in some way, because he was like, oh, what did you think? How did you it's like he wanted feedback on a murder. I don't know what was going on.
Well, and so I did love the line that Elsbeth says, well, you don't have to act in real life. Yeah. So that's how I knew that it was you, because you were acting the whole time. Yeah. Like you're making sure that we knew that you were innocent by acting innocent, and that you don't have to act in real life if you're innocent. And it wasn't just me, or in the scene where he's teaching the drama class about acting and bad acting, I was like,
melodrama.
Bro, what you did was just bad acting. What you did was just melodrama, with the whole like getting down on one knee, being like, oh my God, like that's kind of melodrama. I don't know if you were trying to get across what you're getting across there, but that was very interesting. that in and of itself was bad acting.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have like been in his class. I think I
probably would have bust out laughing, but like
it would have been hard.
And did you find it weird how casual he was after he got caught?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm just like, hey, oh, how did you do that? Any tips? Any feedback? Like,
yeah, he just comes and sits down. He's like, darn it, you got me. Not like a mad that he's been caught. Not even like, why are the cops letting him just sit down and have this conversation with Elsbeth? Everyone's just being so cool and casual. Just like, let him have his little conversation with Elsbeth. It's fine. I'm like, all right, let's go. You're coming with us. It's like, I'm going to chill and have a cookie for a minute. I was like, what's going on around here?
Yeah, that was anything else on episode 1?
No, I mean, I'll just say that I liked it. I had fun with it. I thought that the cat and mouse game. He even says at one point that they're playing chess.
Yeah,
I'm like, is that what innocent person says? Like,
I know.
Like, we're playing chess. It's your move, then my move. Like, only a guilty person would say that. Like, we're playing chess here. But I did enjoy the cat and mouse of it. I think that a lot of this is we're not supposed to take this super seriously. This is more of a comedic show, I think, less so than the other KCU properties. So I'm kind of going with that, with the spirit of that we're supposed to have more fun with this than we are with the other shows. Not to say those other shows we didn't have fun with,
but there were many layers to those shows, and this one is not as much, and that's okay.
Yeah, just this is a different vibe. Like I got a vibe check. This is not the other KCU shows. We got to vibe check ourselves here. Remind ourselves where we are. It's supposed to be fun. So I did have a lot of fun with Elsbeth and doing the things that Elsbeth does. So I'll say that this was a success on this first episode for sure.
Yeah, and it set up the structure for everything we saw in the next 2 episodes very well. We kind of know what we're doing now. So in episode 2, they straight up were like, we love only murders in the building. Like, we are going to make that the center of our story here. It was about Gloria and how she was like the watcher, like the neighborhood watch lady of this co-op in New York City, and everybody was annoyed with her. And Jane Krakowski comes in as a real estate agent saying, hey everybody, Oprah wants to buy 4 of the apartments in this building. You're gonna get so rich. And Gloria like shuts it down, and that gets everybody upset. What was interesting about this one is that we got to see that Jane Krakowski, Joanne Lennox was the name of her character, was the person that basically loosened the balcony that Gloria ended up falling off of. But we didn't see the group project of it all until later. Like, we could have suspected, like, it was like out there, but it wasn't as obvious as other things were.
When Annie goes, hey, Lewis, can you pick up my wrench for me? I was like, okay.
The wrench is about to handing it like out here in the middle of nowhere.
Can you put your ungloved fingerprints on this wrench for me, please?
Yeah.
It's like, make sure your prints are on the wrench. Like, okay, the wrench is going to be used in some sort of thing. We're going to be framing Lewis. I can see that now. But yeah, we didn't get all of the details, all the facts. I thought it was very interesting how they kind of layered in the facts, especially the fact at the very end, which was kind of a surprise ending for us.
Yeah.
About Joanne's real motives here. So that was very interesting, the way they kind of did their reveals on who was, who played what role in this.
Yes, they ended up framing Gloria's son Lewis for this whole situation because Joanne Lennox goes up and says, "Hey, Lewis, your mom wants to sell your apartment." Which
doesn't that make you mad?
Yeah, and she was like, Gloria was like 100% on board with this. It's like, oh, I guess they jumped the gun on this announcement, but I still want to kick you out, Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, it was like,
fine.
Yeah, I just kind of offhandedly mentioned it, but I guess she just went ahead with it. And you know what? I ain't mad or so.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not sell your stuff? Yeah.
And poor Lewis is like, I enjoyed the character of Lewis, the unemployed DJ whose business tanked during the pandemic. Yeah. Like, I did enjoy him. I found him endearing. But then Elsbeth goes to try, as she does, befriend Joanne, which I thought was interesting. She put herself in the position of buying an apartment in this building. Mm-hmm. And we learned like just how rich Elsbeth is in this whole conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we find out that number one, she said, listen, very good at my job. I defended, a lot of criminals that had a lot of money, so I got money from that. And then she talks about her divorce settlement, which I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't remember every Elsbeth appearance in the good wife and good fight. I don't remember her mentioning husband divorce. Do you remember anything from that?
No, I wrote in my notes like, she's rich. I can't remember why.
Yeah, we also get a mention of her son in this.
Yeah.
So and reading a little more about the lead up to this, her son was only mentioned once in the good wife and good fight, but very kind of passing thing. Like there's nothing specific. So the creators said, this is the showrunner said he's probably about 20 so years old on his own, and he and his mom have a good relationship but could be better. So
he's gonna show up.
Yeah, you gotta think he's gonna show up at some point.
Yeah. So as Elsbeth gets on Joanne's tail, she of course has to. Oh, first of all, there was the whole meeting between Joanne and Elsbeth. I thought this was really interesting, where Joanne's like, "The cops called me here. I'm here because the flyer was in Lewis's hands when he was arrested." And Elsbeth positions.
It was in Gloria's hands.
In Gloria's hands when she fell. That's right. And this is where Elsbeth, wants to become a client of Joanne's, and Joanne can't find her card because she doesn't have her bag. And I thought that was a really interesting way of showing Elsbeth who Joanne is, because later we see her leaving the building with her bag after she picked it up from the dumbwaiter. So it was
sloppy.
Okay,
that's so sloppy. Joanne, you're so yes, you're so messy, Joanne.
Does she have an office in the building? No.
Well, and that's the thing I found interesting about all these criminals here. This was seemingly most of their first times, doing something like this. So I think they were kind of sloppy at most points, because in the third episode, the criminal I don't think it was really premeditated that much. It was kind of a in the moment type of thing with the third episode. This was a little more planned out. Episode 1 was planned out, but this is their first time really committing murder, I think. And they were all a little sloppy. Easily found by Elsbeth. Joanne, why didn't you pick up your bag last night if you committed the murder? Can we talk about the fact that we saw someone that was supposed to be Joanne, aka Jane Krakowski, scaling the outside of this building to loosen the bolts on the railing? I was like, really? That's what you want me to believe?
She's a rock climber, okay?
Yeah. And then we'll talk about the super strength superhero-ness of Elsbeth as well at the rock climbing gym, who I almost
had business clothes on.
Yeah, I almost think, Elsbeth is supposed to be almost this magical elf or something, because as she and Joanne are climbing the wall, she's keeping up with Joanne at first, but then once Joanne gets to the top, who is no, amateur rock climber, she's doing pretty good. Elsbeth has somehow beat her to the top of the rock climbing wall. I was like, okay.
She's not exhausted anyway. She's just sitting there kicking her feet.
It's almost like she just magically poofed up there on the wall. She's like, I'd use my magical powers to teleport myself on the top of the wall. I thought that was very interesting and very funny. I think it's even mentioned in the show. I think Kaya is talking about well, I don't know how she would do that. She is, and Elsa goes, my age. They kind of point at that as well. I think that was very funny. I did kind of I think it was in episode 1 where Elsbeth talked about, I've been practicing law for 30 years. I said, really?
I know.
Carrie Preston, aka Elsbeth, I don't know how old she is, but she's if she's been practicing law for 30 years, she's been keeping her beauty routines very, very tight.
She's been staying hydrated. That's for sure. Yeah. So I also loved the moment of Joanne knowing that she has to put more evidence on Lewis, because first of all, again, the cops are like, oh, Lewis did it. Like, obviously he was the one there. He was there. Like, yeah, that's it. But it's not enough evidence. So I did love this. Let's bury the fingerprinted wrench in the weed garden for the dog to pick up. I thought that was funny.
We'll put some like milk bone treats on top just so we can get the dog to go over there. I was like, again, these people aren't seasoned murderers. So it's like, it was a little sloppy, but it's like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here, Joanne.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But in the end, like, we get this, I don't know. Do you know if the show Perdot is like the French guy who, like, every time he solves a crime, it's like a 20-minute, everybody's in the same room and he's like pointing to people and explaining everything that's happening.
I like when we go to a murder mystery party and it's like, this, like the game Clue, it was this person in this place with this weapon, like, as we're detailing how the crime is played out.
Yes.
I haven't watched whatever that show you're talking about. It sounds too fancy smashy for me.
It's on
Fancy Smashy television network. But yeah, I definitely
viewers like you.
Yeah, viewers like me, not like me.
Yeah,
talking about that. That was very like reminiscent of that type of thing.
Or like a Knives Out at the like one of those type of things. But yeah, she went like person by person and kind of like explained exactly how everything played out, and I thought that was interesting. She was like super nervous, thinking she was back in a courtroom, and I am not clear on like how much time has passed between the last time she was in a courtroom, and I don't even know. I mean, I think she did show up towards the end of Good Fight, but it was interesting to me, just like, she's like, oh, it's like court was never her favorite part. I remember that. Like, she did love just like solving things, but not necessarily presenting things. But it was fun to see her tie everything together.
For sure. I do think we shouldn't leave like season 1 without seeing her back in a courtroom. I think that would be interesting. Like I said, like the theory I presented of her maybe having to defend Captain Wagner at some point. I think that would be interesting to see her back in a courtroom in that way. But yeah, I just don't think that the show is very interested in connecting us to like a timeline for Good Wife or Good Fight. Like I'd like, they're just like, it's kind of a different show, so we're not worried about the mythology really. Although as a viewer of all those shows, I would love some tying in of the mythology. I think that would be a big, great thing to do for this, for us dedicated viewers of all the KCU properties.
Well, I wonder if they're just going to give us some time, like get this established and then throw in an Easter egg for us old veterans of the KCU.
Yeah. I mean, we have so many characters that we can pull from, that we can, we can use here.
Yeah,
I think it would be unjust to leave us with no connections. I mean, you're gonna name drop Carrie Yago. It's like, I don't know about you, but I was waiting all of Good Fight for Carrie to come back into the fold.
Yeah,
and it never happened. So I definitely, if you're gonna name drop him, get him in here, please.
Yes,
I've been waiting for it.
Yes,
I don't even think his show's not on anymore. I don't think so. He's got time.
And I mean, like, it's not a big lift. Like, just come in.
Yeah, come on.
This episode, we also do see a little bit about Captain Wagner's corruption. There's this guy, Wally. He comes into the office and is yelling at him, and this company of Flair for All. And so this is in a conversation between Elsbeth and Did we know this guy, Serrano? Like, is he from The Good Fight? Or the good
Celentano, the Department of Justice guy. I think I don't remember if he's ever been on the other properties before. He didn't come to mind.
He didn't come to mind for me either. But
I would be surprised if he was on like one episode or two and we just forgot. But that was interesting for interesting wrinkle to all this.
Yeah, and Elsbeth is like starting to feel like, I don't really want to do this. Like, these people are fun. I'm having fun. And he's like, listen, you got, like, this is what you're here for. We're the Department of Justice. Like, you have to do this.
That tells us that Wagner is probably innocent, right? For like, if Elsbeth has a good feeling about Wagner, she tells us.
Oh yeah, that's true.
probably tells us the Wagners.
Okay, what
definitely
I
is.
would love is knowing that this is like a good property, like the KCU property. I would love it if it was the lieutenant dude that was like framing
Ooh,
the because I need it to be a white
Noonan or
man.
whatever.
I just need it to be a white man. Like that's all I need it to
Yeah.
be.
Yes. That, I mean, listen, this is the time, right? This is the white man's time to take the fall for everything.
Yeah.
So Noonan is a perfect person to make this. I didn't even think about that until you brought that up. I think that is definitely what's going to be happening. That Noonan's
He's been with
closeness
them
to
for like 30
the
years
captain.
too. Yeah,
Yep.
right? Like
Yes. I think you cracked it. I think that's it.
because that would be like the very good wife, good fight thing to do is like throw that little curveball in there.
I think you called it perfectly, and I think probably this Flair for All thing will be wrapped up maybe in the season 1 finale.
Yeah.
So we have this season is I think only 10 episodes, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I think this is gonna be something that's gonna be stretched out for all 10 episodes. Like at the end of episode 9, like Captain Wagner will be arrested for something, and then we'll take care of it in the season 1 finale.
Yeah, and then I mean, given the way that the show is written, not saying that Captain Wagner would be found guilty and not be on the show, but like it gives an opportunity for there to be another police, like, or for her to go to another city, or you know what I mean? Like if she's going to work for the DOJ, I think they position, just thinking, like, I don't think they have, this is one of those shows that they're like, we knew it would be 5 seasons and we knew it would, be like this. I think they left at least enough doors open for flexibility with having her be in the Department of Justice and have like acting on a consent decree. We could send her to Phoenix, Arizona. We could send her to, wherever at the end of every episode, or at the end of every season, just like depending on how it lands. I would love for them to stay in New York, but I'm just thinking like, what kind of escape hatches did they build themselves in?
That's interesting, but I do think that this is going to be something that's going to stay in this setting for as long as the show is on, because I just feel like that is the kind of the procedural game, right?
Yeah,
you kind of stay in this environment.
You start a whole show if you move somewhere else, like in CSI.
And I can see I have that That's So Raven type of, I can see to the future. Like I can see, let's say the end of season 1, we've proven Captain Wagner's innocent, and Captain Wagner and Elsbeth have a discussion at the end of the show. We're like, well, I guess your time's done here since you did what you came to do, but
you could stick around.
If you want to stick around, you can. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do that. And they like walk off into the sunset together as newfound besties.
You think she's going to become a police officer?
That would be interesting. I think at the very least she could be like, they'll do what other shows do. They're like, oh, she's a consultant with the police department now. Her title will change from a consent decree lawyer sent by the Department of Justice to now she's kind of an independent consultant for the police department. Kaya has become a detective, and now Kaya and Elsbeth are going to be official partners together on cases. I could see that kind of evolution happening in the show.
I could see that happening too. Before we wrap up episode 2, I do want to talk about this little surprise ending that we had here. So the motive that was presented to the group originally was the fact that Gloria had said no to the Oprah sale. And so obviously everybody wanted to kill Gloria because they wanted their money for Oprah. But it turns out that Joanne Lennox herself had her own personal reason for going after Gloria in the first place. Like this was the whole reason I think she was in the building from the beginning. And that's because her mom, Joanne's mom, worked for Gloria. And we learned like such gossip. Like this entire episode was full of so much gossip. But we learned that Joanne's mom was like in love with Gloria's dad. And Gloria, like, first of all, one of the only lines she says in this episode is, "I know where the bodies are buried." So there's that. And then she also, every single person when asked about Gloria is that she's never been the same since her husband died.
Yeah, she's a classic New York character.
Yeah.
Which is something that tipped Elsbeth off, because obviously that's, when they're coming up with their, what are we going to do after she's dead? Everyone just say she's a classic New York character and keep it at that. So I think that's definitely something that tipped Elsbeth off, that all these people are working together because all have the same type of line. They all have the same type of thing to say when they're being questioned from the police about Gloria.
But then they find out that like the man, like the husband was mummified, first of all, mummified and buried in the house. Like,
No one smelled
what?
that. She did really good at, getting rid of the smell or
A lot of
whatever. Because
ventilation.
yeah, yeah. Those old New York brownstones had some great ventilation back in the day, apparently.
I did like that Joanne wanted to know that Elsbeth knew the reason, though. Like, and
Yeah,
she really made sure that she told Elsbeth, like, this was worth it. Like, I did it. I feel like I, helped my mom in the long run, and I'm okay. I'm okay with how it turned out.
she
Unfortunately,
becomes unlike the other two criminals in our episodes. Joanne kind of comes out of this being more of a sympathetic character. Like, not she didn't do this just for money or just to silence someone. She did this for her mom. I mean, if we can say that a killer had a good reason to do something, I guess we can say that she did this for justice for her mom. So that was very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the last episode, The Lavish Ladies of the Not Bravo verse.
Yeah, this was interesting. This is very, it was fun. I'll say that.
It was fun. Poor Wendy. Wendy and her blendies. I don't even know how to start with this. Like, they're obviously like a reality TV show like The Real Housewives. There's obviously a character that is supposed to be Andy Cohen. His name is Skip, played by Jesse Tyler Ferguson from Modern Family. And
I was like, oh, Jesse Tyler Ferguson. Yeah. I love Jesse Tyler Ferguson.
Yeah, and he loved, you could tell he loved playing this role. Like, he was having a lot of fun. Yeah.
He was definitely eating it up, yeah.
But so we find out that Wendy and Skip in their past have worked together against Katricia, who was an old member of the group who could apparently hold her liquor, which is not good for the show. So they drugged Katricia. Wendy's role in this was that she supplied the drugs, and Skip gave the drugs to Katricia. So Wendy was basically using this information to blackmail Skip and say, like, hey, I want to become executive producer and I want to do all this stuff. And Skip wasn't having it. So he said, I know what I'll do. First of all, I'll visit you while you're taking a bath. Number one. Number two, I will prepare margaritas in a blender and bring the blender to you while you're taking a bath and have the world's longest cord for this blender.
I was like, how? Like, I honestly could see this coming a mile away. As soon as he walked in, she was in the bath. He's going to find a way to electrocute her. And he's probably going to use one of these blenders. I was like, how is he going to do this? So it was very interesting to see him, take this long ass extension cord, bring it into the bathroom. Now, I mean, unlike our other criminals here, this didn't seem to be entirely premeditated. He came in.
This was a panic.
She started spouting off about blackmailing him and having him give her an executive producer credit. So that at that point, it just seemed like, okay, I got to find a way to take care of this and find a way to murder her. He goes to the kitchen. He's like, what do I do? What do I do? And then he sees a spies, this line of blenders. He's like, oh, that's it. I'll get her with her own product. I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, and they try. He brings out a knife, and then I'm like, he's not the dude who's gonna do this. He's not gonna do it.
He's someone that probably screams the sight of blood, right? He's like, can't do it that way. Can't do it that way.
But I think it's interesting because he had to react in the moment and just continued to do that, and he has to do that when in his job as a reality TV producer. You kind of have to react to what's going on, and so he pushes the blender in and then brings out his two phones. Of course, why would you have two phones? I have two phones, and puts a voice message on Wendy's phone so that it's seen that he wasn't there to make his alibi and everything. He really was able to do things much more in the moment. So even though it wasn't premeditated, he had good reflexes, I guess.
Yeah.
I will say the detective on this one, I don't know if you ever watched the TV show Third Watch. She was on Third Watch.
I recognized her immediately. I was like, this is what we've sunk into, being a one episode detective. Like, you used to be somebody. I remember you. Yeah, of the three detectives, I recognize the first detective, but is one of those guys I've seen that guy somewhere. He's not a big name actor. this lady? I was like, oh, I've seen you before, and you're doing a 1 episode guest on Elsbeth. Like, come on, like, yeah, I definitely recognized her as soon as I saw her.
What did you think of how this all played out? Because we could go step by step, but there's a lot of steps.
I thought it was good, and I think I probably lost the plot a little bit because when Elsbeth points out the fact that he what did he do? He used his second phone to record Tracy's line from another
Yep.
episode about being on time. I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that was what was happening there. So that was a kind of a surprise because I guess I kind of lost the timeline of things and how that voicemail came to be. So that was very interesting how they revealed that. But yeah, I think this guy was probably the most guilty seeming of all all the people. He was like, because I mean, at one point he's even like, "You were supposed to arrest Valencia because I gave you the evidence to arrest her."
The paid intern.
Yeah, she's definitely the one that did it. And he might as well said it definitely wasn't me. So.
Well, that
he was definitely the most guilty.
It starts off when Elsbeth like goes to talk to him after the murder, and he's got like his glitter on his nails and stuff like that. So he's dealing with that. But like they tell him that Wendy is dead, and this is supposed to be like the first time that he's hearing about this, and he's like, "No, Wendy. Oh,
and I think he even says." I think he says, "Oh, you mean because her blender fell into the bathtub?" I want to be like, "We didn't tell you her blender fell into the bathtub. How did you know that's what happened?"
Like, and then he goes and of course they have to put it as part of the show. Goes and tells the rest of the cast, and he's like staring down Elsbeth. Like,
yeah, like it doesn't mean we don't usually do that.
I also loved how Kaya. Okay, never say that watching TV doesn't pay off, because it totally played out for Kaya here. She was able to use her knowledge of the Lavish Ladies universe and know the important players, and she knew who Katricia was and her Montauk meltdown and everything, that went there. And she was able to actually find Katricia at one point. So yay, TV.
Yeah, well, I loved how they used this kind of as an opportunity for us to get to know Kaya better.
Yeah.
Like we go to Kaya's house. We know that Kaya likes to, she likes to go to thrift stores to get stuff for her house. We see her out of uniform for the first time. It's like, and she even has like a different hair. She is letting her hair down literally, because every time we see Kaya in uniform, she's all buttoned up. She's got her hair in a bun or whatever. But like, this is seeing Kaya in a very different light. So I really appreciated us being able to see that, from seeing Kaya from a different lens.
Do you think they're going to be roommates?
I think by the end of the season they're going to be besties. They're going to be good friends. I mean, we even saw it here. They're watching the show together, seemingly kind of bonding over this. They're both falling asleep watching the show while eating pizza.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very good bonding moment for Kaya and Elsbeth to kind of go through this here.
Yeah. Can we also talk about Elsbeth's office in the storage closet?
Yeah, I do like how, a kind of a tit for tat thing where Elsbeth tells Wagner, "I want a different office." He's like, "All right, fine, I'll get you an office on the 5th floor, away from all of us, away from the action." Like, yep, never mind. I want to be. She basically wants to be where the action is,
where the people are.
Yeah, and I love that moment where like Elsbeth is in her closet and she's like staring at Wagner. Wagner's staring back at her. He's like, he just kind of walks out and just closes the door. I love that moment between them.
I will say I have worked in a storage closet. And it has its benefits, but it also is very isolating. It's nice because nobody bothered me. I was just like, we ran out of desks. And so they put a desk in the storage closet.
Marissa, knowing you, they were probably like, "All right, guys, someone's got to take the storage closet." Marissa's like, "Fine, I'll do it."
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I just knowing you, I feel like that was what happened.
Past me, totally. Like, I don't think I would do that now, but past me totally did that. But I did decorate it as well as I could, so I'm excited to see the evolution of the storage closet.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely gonna put her flair on it, right?
Yeah,
I feel like, Elsbeth has all these tote bags. That's kind of her signature thing. I kind of want her to like take something new out of the tote bag every week to kind of help solve the case. I want them to use that device a little more in the episodes, because I mean, have them have some kind of function, some utility there.
Yeah, like she could be the Mary Poppins of crime solving. Like, whoa! Like she had the cookies, and then she had that little trophy. What else did she take out? I don't know.
Cookies, mate? No, she had the cookies like behind her back or something.
Yeah.
It's almost like Marge Simpson's hair, like on The Simpsons, where she can just take all kind of stuff out of it and be like, this could fit in here, could you? Like she just took a whole plate of cookies out of her bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if this was a different show, we would be kind of delving into Elsbeth's kind of, quirks and maybe, exploring whether or not this is part of our neurodivergence type of thing. But this is not that show, I don't think.
I mean, I don't think that's the show right now. If there's a conversation, like if they bring in her son and they're able to like spend more time with Elsbeth the person, like we still haven't seen her temporary housing. We've seen more of Kaya's house than we've seen of Elsbeth's house.
Yeah.
And so
I do hope
if they open that door, we might get there.
Yeah, I hope they delve more into like the personal life of Elsbeth, because as of right now, she's almost this kind of magical fairy for the cops. She comes in, does her job, and then we don't see anything else about it.
Yeah.
I want to see what her dating life would be like. I want to see what her home life is like.
Yeah.
Like we said, the relationship with her son. So yeah, I think that'd definitely be something worthwhile for the show to delve into.
Like what we know right now is she's doing every tourist thing. She has a lot of money from her life in Chicago, and her son is in the same time zone as her now. Like these are the things that we know. So I would love to see more character development from her. I also it would be remiss of me not to mention the cameo mention in this episode. Do you think Cameo paid for this product placement? Number one. Number two, how did you enjoy the use of this device in this episode?
I thought it was hilarious because it is kind of a cameo that you might see where, they're using this as an opportunity to, number one, sell products while kind of half-assing the cameo itself. Like, what's your name? Oh yeah, Samantha. Like, hey, happy birthday. Let me use the opportunity to sell my product to you. I thought it was very, very fun use of, and you're right, because I think Cameo must have been a paid sponsor or something, because typically they would use some other false name to do this.
Google in the first one, when he pulled up the website for how to commit suicide, it was Go Search. And even like in the, I was surprised it wasn't that search engine from The Good Fight.
Oh, Chubhub. Was it Chubhub?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a great through line. I don't remember where we left off.
Maybe Chubhub died. I don't know, but it would have been a funny.
Because it was a big good wife and good fight plot lines. Yeah. I don't know where we left off. I don't remember where you left off on Chubhub, but that would have been a very good callback. But yeah, like I was surprised Cameo wasn't was like a guest star or something like that name of the service. So yeah, Cameo must have been involved in some type of way.
Yeah. What did you think of this trap? So we basically had the memorial service where everyone, the memorial reunion like taping type of situation where all of the lavish ladies were there. First of all, sorry, I have to mention my favorite line from this episode is when Skip goes, "Do you think they're after my ladies?" It was so funny. I was like,
my ladies?
My ladies?
My ladies? As Jesse Tyler Ferguson just chews every ounce of scene that he can every moment. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
But he's there with his ladies. And then Katricia comes in and basically gets the evidence that they needed for the situation. So how do you think that worked?
I thought it was genius, of course, how they set all this up with the envelope. And I love that the envelope was really a 20% off coupon for one of Wendy's. Like that's hilarious, first of all. And they use an envelope to kind of place a bug so that, because that Skip is going to pat her down for Mike, because this is supposed to be a Mike off situation. So I love how they set him up like that, how they caught him. And there's some evidence that kind of falls into Elsbeth's lap, because Tracy does mention, on the way to meet Skip, I did text my Pilates instructor, which will give us a better timeline of what actually happened around the festivities that night. But that's neither here nor there. I did love how they set him up on this. It was another one of those, like you termed it in the second episode, where kind of get everyone together and we kind of solve the mystery, and we're like, it was Skip in the backstage of the thing. He did it with this and that. So I did enjoy that aspect of it. I enjoyed how he got caught there.
I also love that it would not have been possible without the help of a disgruntled worker. Like, this is it's the best capitalistic revenge that could happen.
Rudy was our real hero.
Yes. Thank you, Rudy.
Rudy's the sound guy.
Well, Jason, out of these three, do you have like a favorite episode, favorite crime? How are you feeling?
I think my favorite crime, just for the absurdity of it, might have been the third episode where he's not, he just throws the blender in the bathtub. I think that was my favorite one. I think my favorite criminal, my favorite criminal, I might have to give it to Jesse Tyler Ferguson. He did such a kooky, goofy job, but I liked all the criminals here. I liked all the guest stars of, and if we're gonna have stay this big with guest stars every week, I'm going to really enjoy it. I mean, we had Stephen Moyer, you had Jane Krakowski,
Yeah.
Jesse Tyler Ferguson. I love all three of those people. I love them on their respective shows. So we can keep up with that level of guest star every week. I think I'm going to really enjoy it because they all have these different type of relationships with Elsbeth, right? At the end of episode one, it was almost like Alex and Elsbeth were like, they respected each other as adversaries in a way. Joanne was pretty much just annoyed with Elsbeth the whole time, which was
Yeah.
fun. And then we kind of see this different side of Joanne. And then Skip was just so busy trying to throw everyone else on the bus. He was just like so irritated the whole time. I love that part as well.
I love that he kept offering everyone on the show, like, we've never had a cop on the show.
Yeah.
Like, I can make you famous.
So I think episode 3 might be my favorite, followed shortly by episode 1, and then episode 2 will, bring up the rear for me. How about you? What was your feeling about the 3 and where they left you feeling?
Yeah, I think like the first one was it was like a great pilot episode, set everything up, how everything is going. I did enjoy the cat and mouse of it all between Elsbeth and Alex. The co-op one was just like insane to me. It just was like one thing after another, and I loved, like, we got true Jane Krakowski moments of her like running on a treadmill in heels. Yeah. Like, these are just like completely things that only Jane Krakowski would do, and it was fun to see her do that. And I love a group project. I think that Lavish Ladies was my favorite just because it was also very ridiculous, and it was kind of like they were making it up as they were going along. It was like, this was not, like you were saying, it was not a premeditated thing. It just kind of happened. We saw the reasons. We got to see the motive really before we saw anything else. So I think I might be 3-2-1 on this as opposed to 3-1-2. But that's where I'm at for now. I'm interested to see what other criminals show up. But I think, are they dropping 2 episodes at a time?
I think this past week's 2 episodes at once, I think, was a one-off.
Okay.
I don't quote me, but I do think we're doing 1 episode a week from here on out. It was very odd that they decided to do a 5-week break from episode 1 to then episode 2 and 3 released together. That was odd. We were planning this. We were planning this podcast out. And we were like, okay, yeah, we'll do episodes 1 and 2 as one when it premieres, and then episode 1 comes out. I was like, oh, they're doing a 5-week break in between, and then it was like, oh, they're doing episode 2 and 3 together. Like, okay, we'll do all 3 together then. So I think the plan for us is we're going to be doing 1 podcast per every 2 episodes. Is that that's still the schedule we have. So we'll come back at you in about 2 weeks. We have another 2 episodes to talk about, and we'll follow this throughout the whole season.
Yeah, and then I don't know, maybe we'll go other places in the KCU.
We'll see what other good places we can talk about again. So I'm very encouraged by the first 3 episodes of this show. I do think it's going to be a good show. It's going to be, as we said many times, going to be a different show than the other good properties. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think all 3 shows can be good, just in different ways.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks. I'm excited to do this project with you. I think it'll be fun, Jason.
Of course, even if the show was bad, we've done bad shows. We've done bad shows and made them fun for us. So I think that's all that really matters.
Yeah, I kept looking, to be quite honest, I kept looking for bad and I couldn't find it. I was like, is this the Jason and Marissa curse? I don't know what's happening. But I was like, okay, I think we have an actual show here.
So I'm excited to go through the show with you. Always a blast talking to you, and it was a blast talking about these 3 episodes and what we liked and what maybe we could be improved on.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have. Is that anything you want to tell the people before we go?
No, I mean, you can find me on different platforms. You want to talk more about Elsbeth to get our thoughts. For me, you can find me on Twitter at JAYR1085. If you want to follow my other podcast pursuits, I do have at least one thing in the mix right now on the Rob Has Podcast Network on the Love at First Sight feed. Me and my co-host Asia Welch talk about the show Married at First Sight on our podcast. A Perfect Match. That was a lot of names I just threw at you. I know that. But check me out on that show if you have any interest in Married at First Sight. Other than that, that's it for me. Marissa, where can the people find you? Are you anywhere right now? Or are you just kind of taking a social media sabbatical right now?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not a big fan. As you know, I'm not a big fan of the new Twitter world. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I haven't been on the Twitters.
I'm not calling it by its one letter name. I'm still it's still Twitter on my phone. They keep trying to make me update it, and I am refusing to update the app.
So I'm not on there as much as I used to, but I am on Instagram and on Threads at It's Me, Marissa G, and you can see what I'm up to there. I'm writing about something, like I'm writing about TV every now and then. So I post updates there, just like going through it's basically therapy TV writing, going through my childhood, talked about Sesame Street, talked about things like that.
I gotta dive deep into that. I gotta find those because I'm not a big Instagram Threads guy.
I'll hook you up. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, send it, please. But yeah, until next week, until I can find a better outro, I'll just say, case closed.
It's a good one.